If you, of course, are doing this at home and not for a class, you can you won't cut your ribbon yet. You'll just go ahead and tie your bow. I use this little tying tool that I made, which is just an acrylic tube. It's about the size of a spray can of Pam, and some water bottles are about this size, which is perfect for a portrait, 4 1/4 portrait card. And you just want to tie your bow. And then slide it off. And I'm going to put my bow kind of off to the side, so I want to cut my ribbon off center. Go ahead and trim that off. And then you can just mount your bow to the front right there. And I'm just going to put just a teeny bit of snail right here just to hold this little side down while I turn it over. And then you just put snail on the back and fold your ends in. There, and your bow is in place. I'm going to take my ribbon scissors and trim that off neatly. Okay. Some people like to put a little glue dot under there just to hold the bow in place. When you got it stuck down the back, that's really not always necessary. Now we're ready to go ahead and stick it to the front of our card. And once again, I'm just using some snail. This is going to have a very small border, 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to put a little snail over where I stuck the ribbon down so that won't be sticking up. And just go ahead and mount that to the front. Just going to snip off that little tip there where my corner rounder didn't do a very good job. Okay, and now it's mounted. Now we want to take our 4 little hearts and we want to layer them. I'm going to put that lacy torn one right there in the middle. And I'm just going to line them up. And I'm going to use my 1/16 hole punch. This is the same as we did last week where we lined up the tiny tags and put the safety pin in. I'm going to go ahead and pin those together. I'm not ready to put it on my ribbon yet because we're going to put a little pearl right here in the corner. And I'm just using some of the stick-on pearls. These I've actually had for a long time. They're a little bit bigger than what's in the Stampin' Up! Kit now. But the Stampin' Up! Kit works just as well. And these do not have any sticky on them like the Stampin' Up! Ones do. So I'm going to put a little glue dot on the back. And just stick that in the corner. Now, if you want to, this would be a time to, if you want to use some smoosh spray, which I use the bronze. You could use the bronze or the gold and smoosh it a little bit. This would be a good time for that. I'm just going to turn around right here and do this on my sink. Okay, and I did put some smoosh on there. You can see it's just a little bit glittery. I used the bronze, and we're just, or log cabin, I believe they call it in Stampin' Up. And I'm just going to lay this over to the side. Now, I have some little tiny skinny strips which are just slid under the paper cutter and just cut off 1/8 of an inch. And I'm just going to cut those in half. And those are going to be our little swirly things that you see sticking up here on the card. And all you have to do is just rub it with your fingernail. And I usually do one way and then the other. And then just kind of scrunch it up in your fingers. And we're just going to stick that under the bow. And just kind of twirl in the ends. You just want it to be kind of haphazard. It's not supposed to look perfect. And this would be a good time when you might want a glue dot under there kind of to hold everything into place. So what I'm going to do to kind of make that stay in place is I am going to put a glue dot under there. And I'm just going to do that with my hobby knife. My friend Gloria has a nice little trick for getting those under there by leaving them stuck on the paper, then just putting the paper under there and pulling it out. I'm going to do just like that. That should hold those in there sufficiently under the bow. Well, I say that. Okay. And if it doesn't want to curl up to suit you, you can just trim off what you don't want sticking up. Okay, that's good enough for me. Our smoosh should be dry now, so we're just going to take our little hearts, and I'm going to pin them under the bow. I'm not pinning them to the bow. I'm pinning them to the ribbon underneath one side of the bow, and just kind of pull those down and let the bow be on the top. And kind of fluff them out and separate them so they look real lacy. Okay, now we want to stamp our sentiment, and I'm using the Thank You stamp from Because I Care. I just like to use that stamp because it fits so nicely in the oval punch. And I'm using Concord Crush. Once again, this is only a 2-color ink project. For those of you who don't have a lot of different colors of ink, this would be a good project to do, to mix any color with Sahara Sand, or you could use Close to Cocoa. And just punch that out. And again, I'm going to sponge the edge. Alright. And then I'm going to punch out on my piece of paper where my hearts were. I'm going to punch out the scalloped oval for my backing. And just put a little snail on there, or you could use your Xyron. Mount that. And then that's going to be right on the front with a couple of dimensionals. And there you're all done. An elegant thank you card. Enjoy!